The BBC produced a documentary, Sex for Grades. Subsequently, it led to the interdiction and the composition of a committee. And now we have a verdict coming out of the committee issued in a statement, well espoused there. It also gives pointers as to the actions that have been taken so far, because this contravene a code of conduct of the university in relation to sexual activities, and if lecturers flouted those, what could be some of the punitive measures that could be meted out. And we found the statement. We'll take you through the statement, and we'll put the statement on screen, and then we'll take our viewers through. And subsequently, we do have lawyer Francis Xavier Susu, who is a representative.
Let's take a quick look at the statement. Let's share that quickly. It should come up on your screen shortly. All right, but while we're waiting for that, you know, this is sort of the culmination of an investigation that took quite a while after the SexForGrades report came out. There was a lot of debate before, and then the university stepped in and said, we're going to look into this. At some point, there was some exoneration, if you will, on the issue of whether or not they traded sex for grades. You know, it was determined that no, that's not what they did. However, there was still a possibility that there might have been some misconduct on their part. So there was further investigation, and now we are hearing the outcome of that further investigation. Let's very quickly go through the statement. It says, management of the University of Ghana wishes to inform members of the university community that the senior members disciplinary committee has completed the hearing of the matter involving Professor Ransford Gyampo and Dr. Paul Butakor. In line with Statute 46.2 of the University of Ghana Statutes as amended and Regulation 15.0 of the Code of Conduct for academic staff of the University of Ghana, the disciplinary committee recommended a 6-month suspension without pay for Professor Gyampo and a 4-month suspension without pay for Dr. Butakor. The suspensions take effect from January 1, 2020. In addition, Professor Gyampo and Dr. Butakor are required to undergo appropriate training on the University of Ghana's sexual harassment and misconduct policy, as well as the Code of Conduct for academic staff of the University of Ghana. They will be required to receive a positive assessment after the training before resumption of their duties. They're also required to undergo annual assessment for a period of 5 years. Right. Okay, now there's more, but of course we can speak to the lawyer of Professor Ransford Gyampo, Francis Xavier Susu. He joins us on the line now. Francis, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, good morning, and a very good morning to your cherished viewers.
Right. How's your client reacting to the ruling?
Well, the initial reaction is that they have accepted the suspension in good faith and are willing to just move on with their lives, except that there are some few concerns that they want to put out there clearly. The very first one is that when you look at the statement of the University of Ghana, it leaves a lot of doubt in the mind of people. And so they want to make it clear that Prof. Gyampo and Dr. Butakor were not found guilty of sexual misconduct or sex for grades, as was originally alleged by the BBC. Then again, it is quite disappointing that there was no statement at all made about the BBC, how the BBC showed gross disrespect to the university by refusing to avail themselves to be cross-examined on what they claim they had done professionally. You know, and for us, all those things were issues that challenged the integrity, or at least undermined the integrity of the entire administrative proceedings. And also given the fact that they were not found guilty of sexual misconduct, our clients are a bit at a loss why they have been, in addition to the suspension, been asked to undergo training in anti-sexual harassment policy and further monitoring in that respect. So clearly, when you look at the statement of the university, it's a bit misleading because it creates the impression that Professor Gyampo and Dr. Butakor were found guilty of sexually related offenses, but that was not what happened.
All right. So what are they being suspended for?
They were suspended for a breach of their code of conduct as senior members.
How did they breach
words,
the code?
The university was of the view that even though the allegations of sexual misconduct were not established, in fact, there was a fact-finding committee that initially investigated the entire allegation and came to a conclusion that the allegation of SexForGrades did not exist. There was no evidence whatsoever to support the fact that Professor Gyampo and Dr. Butakor harasses female students or, at the very least, even asking them for sex in return for grade. There was no such evidence on board, except that the university was of the view that even though there was no such evidence, the statements used by the professors on those videos, whether in public or in private, may amount to a breach of their code of conduct as senior members.
How does it breach the code?
That and said, yes, I mean, with hindsight or with the benefit of hindsight, if they had an opportunity, this was a statement they would never have made. And so, to the extent that they made those statements, they were willing to concede, and I'm sure that is what has led to this suspension.
Right, Mr. So how specifically did they breach the code? What does the code say, and how did their actions breach it?
Well, I think the code simply said, I may not be able to quote it verbatim now, but the effect of the code was that whether in private or public, senior members are supposed to carry themselves out to promote their own image and the image of the university, either by their conduct or by their words and so on and so forth. So
in what way did your client's actions breach the code?
No, so by the statements that they made. For example, making a statement to a female saying that, will you be my side chick? Or a female that, I think that there were some statements that were alleged or that were attributed to them on those things. And they admitted that those were their statements, but they were never intended to elicit sex for grade. And that was made, very, very clear. Except that, of course, they admitted that they made those statements, and it was based on those statements that the university was of the view that even though they were not found guilty of any sexual offense, those statements may amount to a breach of those code of conduct. That has been the view of the university.
What is your client's position on the accusation that as people in positions of authority over students, that it is misconduct for them to actually use, in spite of that position of authority, seek to pursue an amorous relationship with students who are under their authority, on the university campus?
I think that they have flatly denied that.
But you just gave an example of one of them saying, will you be my side chick?
Any evidence that even, remotely, suggests or proves that fact. And the university, the records of proceedings are there. There is nothing on record that proves that. It's just mere allegation and it's mere suspicion.
You said yourself, you gave an example. You said one of them said to a student, will you be my side chick?
No. I'm saying that those statements, that were made to the alleged BBC reporter.
Yeah, who they believe to be a student. So
No. They didn't appear. You see, that's why when you look at the reason why the entire evidence showed that there was no allegation of SexForGrades was because the evidence is contrary, and BBC was not available to be cross-examined on those facts. In the first place, they didn't present themselves as students of the university community. That's number one. And remember that when it comes to sexual harassment and matters like that, in the first place, you must be a member of the community. They were not. So in the first place, they breached those laws. Secondly, they did not have the right and the permission of the university to do what they did. It violated Article in respect of their personal right to privacy, so on and so forth. But these are issues that we're not interested in interrogating. But the point was that there were a number of encounters. In fact, when you look at the evidence, for example, with Dr. Butakor, this was a lady that pretended that she was either from some other university and just trying to, I came to look for like some kind of a mentorship arrangement or something, and decided, succeeded in building a personal relationship with the lecturer and teach the lecturer to utter specific words. And you know what? This is a conversation that took more than several minutes. But she goes ahead, put pieces together, and then limit it to 4 minutes, trying to use that to skew the mind of the public to believe that the man is into prey on girls. And I don't think that whilst we don't need to encourage people to do the wrong things in our society, we don't have to go out there to deliberately, fix people by way of piecing some, doctored pieces of information together. And
to be clear,
that's why we all need to take exception to that. Because then everybody is vulnerable and everybody can become a victim under those circumstances.
Yeah.
And what is worrying to me is the fact that the one who went about doing this is refusing to make herself available.
Hello, Mr. Sosu. Yeah, sorry, you've made that point already. I wanted to ask you, if to be clear, what you're saying is that your clients, at no point did your clients believe that they were dealing with students of the University of Ghana.
And that has been clearly made.
All right.
And that is in evidence.
Okay, so let's move on then. So do your clients believe that this ruling of the University of Ghana is fair to them?
Can you kindly say that again? Because I think I can
do your clients believe that the ruling communicated in the statement is fair to them?
Well, I mean, they have issues with it, but they are willing to accept it. In fact, they have every basis to question the ruling, particularly with respect to undergoing training in anti-sexual harassment and so on and so forth, because that is completely prejudicial in matters of law that, Prof. Gyampo and Dr. Butakor could take on. But they have decided, in the interest of closure, to just let it go. And I think we must respect their decision to just let it go so they can focus on their core mandate as lecturers.
Very well. Thank you very much for your time.
Francis
Xavier Sosu is a lawyer for the 2 university lecturers who have been suspended following the BBC investigation.
Definitely. And we have to say that the statement from the University of Ghana indicates that the suspension, 1, is for 6 months for Professor Ransford Gyampo and for Dr. Butakor, 4 months. And for the former, it would mean that he has 5 months in which, 5 more years in which to be assessed by the university of being of good behavior in respect of this very subject of indiscipline in relation to.
What do you think of the university's instruction for them to undergo sexual sensitivity training or sexual harassment training? Yeah,
the truth of the matter is that when you get to the disciplinary code of the university, it states that lecturers are not supposed to cast aspersions or innuendo, so to speak, and then also make approaches towards students.
Their lawyer argues that they didn't know they were dealing with students.
Yes, you see, if we put the argument in perspective coming from the protagonists or the antagonists themselves, one, Professor Gyampo, and then subsequently now his legal team, it's always been that I represented the students, were models in respect, not real students. And in that perspective that they argue.
Right.
So that because they were not real students, the situation doesn't arise of you trying to make advances towards your students because they were, 1, not real students, 2, were not students of the school.
So if an employer says that one of my rules is you can't steal from me, and then you see some supplies there and you steal them, thinking that they belong to your employer, and later it turns out that they don't belong to your employer, does that mean your employer cannot fire you for stealing from him, especially when it's clear that you thought you were stealing from him?
Maybe your employer can fire you for you having an intention to steal from him, even though what you stole was not his. Yes.
So the intention matters. It's an interesting debate. I mean, I think from the very beginning, Professor Gyampo has been quite, Professor. I don't know Professor Butakor personally, but at least from Professor Gyampo, who I know, he's been quite embarrassed by all of this. And he certainly doesn't want any stigma, attached to his name. So let's hope that this thing unfolds, it unfolds smoothly.